Hello, I'm attorney Dan Marr from the law firm of Hamlin Kerrigan here in Nashua, New Hampshire. I've been practicing law for approximately 36 years in New Hampshire and 28 years in Massachusetts, Commonwealth of Massachusetts, licensed in both states. And in those years of practice, I've dealt with a lot of business issues, both business contracts, but then also disputes that arise. And I'm going to be focusing on this vlog about, this podcast today about business owner disputes. So you have maybe an LLC together, you're members of an LLC, or you're members being a limited liability company, or you're shareholders of a corporation. It's a small business, maybe there's three of you and you all have a third interest, and two of you think that the third one isn't carrying their own weight, and you think that they're not doing enough of a job, so the two of you get together and you decide, okay, what we're going to do is we're going to fire him because he's also an employee, and then we're going to buy out his shares. And we're not going to talk to him about the problems that we have with him. We're just going to do this because we don't want to give him the time to lawyer up and take some action. We want to get control over the business and move him out because he's not doing what he's supposed to do, and he's really disappointed us as a partner. In that situation, you have a very good chance of having a claim brought against you personally in addition to the company for a corporate freeze-out for breach of fiduciary duties. I've represented both the owners in that situation and that are considering that how to do it the right way, as well as the oppressed, the one that says that they're oppressed. And they call it as a freeze-out. In the New Hampshire and Massachusetts law, for that matter, they acknowledge that in a closely held company, being a company that's not publicly traded, a small company, your employment is usually part of your ownership package and is part of your value there. So if you get fired from that employment, it's different than a situation where under the New Hampshire and Massachusetts law, there's an employee at will doctrine that says other than for certain protected classes or other statutory reasons, or unless you have a contract, you can get fired with or without cause, with or without notice, other than what's called a public policy exception. In this situation, there's more rights to you as a shareholder of the company, and the ability of the other shareholders to freeze you out by taking you out. Maybe it's a restaurant and you are the front of the house person, or you're the chef, and you get fired as part of the deal because the other two shareholders or the majority shareholder that has control decides they don't want you there anymore. In that situation, you do have, there are some rights to claim freeze out. You have to show why they took action against you and they breached their duty of fiduciary duty to you. The cases I've dealt with these both in arbitration and litigation, the courts and the arbitrators generally will say that the owners have the utmost duty of good faith and fair dealing to their fellow owners. So that means if you have a problem with them, you sit down with a cup of coffee or a beer and you talk about it. You discuss it, even though you can't stand being, it's gotten such to a level you can't stand being around that person. You have to talk to them and you have to figure out a way to let them know what's going on that's subpar for their performance, or maybe their contributions to the business entity. They're not putting up their capital share. You have to give them that type of notice. Maybe it's with the lawyers, if there's a capital call and it's allowed under the agreements that you have, there's a lawyer that helps you draft the notice of the ramifications if they don't pay the money into the company. Or there's some other situations where there's an argument that one shareholder that doesn't have a lot of money is not getting distributions because the other two that have a lot of money are deciding, you know what, we're going to put that money back into the company. And if the one that doesn't have a lot of money can show that the real reason for that is to freeze out you so they can buy your shares for a discount, in that situation, there's a breach of fiduciary duty argument, and they could go after the individual shareholders or members personally for their tort, their breach of their fiduciary duties. So that's very important to understand those situations. Talk to the people about it. Understand you have the utmost duty of good faith and fair dealing. Look at the contracts themselves. Whether that's an operating agreement for an LLC, limited liability company, or a shareholder agreement for a corporation. Look at those documents. Look at the bylaws and the articles of organization or incorporation in the entity, and or certificate formation is not going to have much in an LLC, but the operating agreement will have quite a bit of detail in the LLC. Look at that. The lawyer can also tell you what the default statute provisions are when there's not something in the LLC operating agreement. But talking to the other side, it might be a little bit of a process, but sometimes you can work out something. If you can't, then you might go to court rather than taking some quick action of firing the person. If you are firing the person, make sure you document real well. Your lawyers can help you do that, making sure that you're telling them exactly what the problems are and you give them the opportunity to fix it, even though you know that they're not going to fix it. I can talk to you about that. I've dealt with these cases both in the litigation and in the preventative matters of negotiating these. I'm Dan Marr at Hampshire, Kerrigan, and Nashua at 603-883-5501, 603-883-5501. You can also check out our website. That's got all my weekly vlogs in there. And I had a radio show that went from December of 2014 to March of 2023 weekly, and that's also, those are loaded into there. The website is naturallaw, all one word, .com, naturallaw.com. Look forward to working with you. The opportunity arises. Again, you can contact me at 603-883-5501. Thank you. Bye-bye.